consider, how to coordinate it. You understand how to put everyone, organize the team, let them know what the movement entails, the responsibility of each person, getting professionals, until the final moment of movement, the moving to the new location, setting up, everything being done on time and professionally. That's one key thing I took away from the last lesson. Can you hear me?
Yes, we got that. Thank you so much, Mrs. Philomena, for sharing that beautiful key lessons from the last class. This really shows that you really owe to the entire session on Wednesday. Well done. Keep it up.
Thank you. Yeah.
I'll call on someone who hasn't spoken on this call. Okay, Mr. Toby Okubote, yes. Mr. Toby Okubote, please kindly share with us your key lessons from the last class. Okay, it seems Mr. Okubote is not with us here. So next, I'll call on Mr. Ugochukwu Onozo. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. Good evening, everybody.
Yeah, good evening. Welcome. Yes, we can hear you clear.
Okay, so from last class is a whole full package. This FM course is like every course is a full icing on the cake. So I really got to understand the importance of when you want to start or get a facility, you need to plan about the fire, the accessibility, how easy it is to access, and when there's like an issue of fire, how easy it is for people to evacuate the premises, which is one thing. And also looking at the movement aspect of when the office, like for example, wants to relocate from one place to the other. Before you relocate, they need to go to the new site, inspect it, and also as you're inspecting it, you need it also shows me the importance of teamwork there, because it doesn't really have to rely on one person. So you have to delegate. Some people are packing, labeling, while some people are also going to the other side to inspect how the fire alarm is working, how the environment is, what needs to be changed so that the office and everything will be put in place. So I really understand that, okay, movement is not something that has to do with a week. And if you are moving something, you need to inform from the CEO to the shareholders, even down to the cleaner and to the security, so that everybody knows the role to play. And also the importance why you need to involve a movement, a logistic company, because right there, because of the experience and how they will be able to handle the company's load and the safety of it. So I think those are the things I got from it. There are a whole lot, but those are the things I can remember right
Very
now.
good. Yes, that's very good. Well done, Mr. Onozo. Very good. Keep it up. Next, I think we just have two more people who will share with us their key takeaway. So we want one male, one female. Okay, let me call on Mr. Sunday Agbonlenume, if I got that right. Mr. Sunday Agbonlenume. I don't know if that's right. Is Mr. Sunday on the call? Okay, it seems Mr. Sunday is not active on the call. So next, I'll call on Mr. Adebola Abiodun. Please kindly share with us the key lessons from the last class.
Okay, good evening, class. Sorry, I was not available at the last class. I was not in the class. Sorry for that.
Okay, all right. But I hope you have visited the learning management system to catch up with the video recording.
I have not, but I will definitely do that. I will do that.
Okay, so do that so that you don't miss out. Okay, next, you're welcome. Next, I'll call on Mr. Clement Okafor. Yes, please kindly share with us the key lessons from the last class. Mr. Clement Okafor, are you there? Okay, since most of the students are not active, then you can start taking the attendance of those active in class now. Okay, let's call on, yes, Miss Modupe Ladipo, yes. Please kindly share with us your key lessons from the last class.
Okay, good evening, Ma.
Good evening, ma'am. Well
Good
done.
evening.
Yes. Okay, so one of the things I learned was that there were some considerations you should take, when you want to expand or when you want to plan a space, right? Especially when you are moving. So you take into consideration why you are moving, the number of people you are moving, that has to do with maybe taking head count as relation to the space that is available in the place you are planning to move, right? Um, the what's it called now? Future possibility of expansion, is the place you're moving, is there a possibility of expanding? So those are like some of the consideration I learned that you should take into consideration when you are planning a space. And also, I also learned what was called churn rate, right? So I used to call it attrition, maybe in HR, attrition rate. I don't know if you can correct me, but even in facility management, I'm seeing now that there's what we call churn rate, which is basically measuring the number of staff, is it increase or decrease in a particular year. And I also learned when the facilitator, I think Mr. Usi, right, said that you
Yes,
take
architect. Yes.
ma. Okay.
Go on, yes, you got that.
Okay. Yes. Okay. That you take head counts maybe 3 times a year or 2 times a year, maybe quarterly, so that you have an idea of what the space you fully utilized, is it underutilized, and then you should also be very flexible. Being a facility manager in space planning, you should always have it in mind that you can be flexible, and your main goal is to achieve productivity, and properly utilize the space. So yes, among many other things I learned, and I really enjoyed the class. I saw that there are many ways you can plan in space. Um, uh, I remember hoteling. Uh, sorry, so hoteling for me was new because I used to see it as a workstationing, right? I also let out space like that. They call it workstationing, but hoteling was the term used, and it was something new for me that you can actually plan to use a space for a particular period. You pay, right? Or maybe you want to use a office space for like 2 hours or 3 hours, and then you leave. Another person will use that space. So that's what's called hoteling, and then you have telecoming or something like that. So yes, I learned a lot and I really enjoyed the class. Thank you very much.
Very good, Ms. Modupe Ladipo. Very good lessons. Well done. And thank you for sharing them with us. I think we have just 3 minutes to wrap up this session, this TKB session. So I'll have Mr. Emeka, yes, Mr. Emeka AJ. Please, can you share with us your key lessons from the last class? Please, just to wrap up this session. Mr. Emeka AJ, yes, over to you.
Uh,
Yes,
please,
go on.
Bracket.
Yes.
Where I am, I'm on transit. I'm on transit.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, yeah, exempted then. Okay, thank you for that. Okay, let me call on Mr. Omo Pariola Gbenga. Please kindly share with us your key lessons from the last class on space planning and mode management. Just to wrap up this session.
Sorry, you give me. I'm just parking now. I'm driving. I'm just parking now.
Okay. All right. Since everyone is in transit. Okay. Okay, Mr. Sunday, are you there now? Sunday Agwonlenume. If Mr. Sunday is not there, let's hear from Mr. Samuel Adam. Mr. Samuel Adam, can you share with us your key lessons from the last class? In this way, being able to identify students who are actively present in class, we can update our attendance appropriately. Mr. Samuel Adam there.
Clement is up now.
Okay, Mr. Clement, share with us your key lessons from the last class, so that way we can wrap up this session. Thank you.
All right, good evening, thank you. We talked about space planning and move management. My take home is that as a facility manager, when we want to move from a space to another space, the key point is that facility manager must be fully involved in the movement, fully involved, because it is facility manager role to ensure that where you are moving to the negotiation on the current lease, to know the capacity of staff that will occupy a particular space, if they are much or they are less, able to utilize the space they have. The facility manager must know the type of business they are doing to collaborate with the space they need. And sometimes when they are negotiating for lease, there's always room for subletting. Sublet, you must put it in the document in case probably maybe there's a reduction of staff, and maybe you have a lot of space in the office, you might want to at least sublet. But if it is not in the document of the agreement between the owner of the property and the company, if it is not there initially, the owner of the property may not. So it's about the things that the manager need to do to ensure that there's no problem with the space they have. And when they're moving, there's need for the facility manager to have what is called unit coordinators. Unit coordinators, at least from each department, one person to be able to put all their materials or in place, and they have to work along with the facility manager to ensure that they are moving from one place to another. They have effective movement. I think that is all I can see. Let me know whether you put the talk.
Very good, Mr. Clement. Well done. Well done. That's quite impressive. Okay, Mr. Kenny Edwin, your hand is up. Do you have any contribution before we wrap up?
Yes, actually I do. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening. Welcome.
Yeah, when it comes to planning, as an FM, we need to make like a checklist of what we need to put in place. What we need to consider is place of the office and how many people will be in that office, either in each department. So we need to consider some of those aspects when making a space for each department as a facility manager. And the equipment that is going to be used in that same space, you should consider those aspects too, because it's very, very important. So as able to minimize space and not making space too much and more obvious that we're wasting space. So we are able to manage that space very, very well. Also, in the process of doing that, we're able to negate some unnecessary setbacks in our movement of space management issue. So by doing that aspect, we can be able to make sure all things are in compliance with the company's order. Because when you're moving out or try to relocate to other places, there are those who are skilled, like those who are moving experts, moving your equipment, your tools that you need to work very well to another place. So by moving those things, you will require expert trade to move things from your office down to your new location. And also, arrangement of your spaces required expert trade need for you to call those who are skilled, either from within the company or outside the company, to come and work on such that space, like the space to be well managed and organized. So these are the things I take from the back then. So when you talk about that churn rate, for me, I look at it different in a different aspects because the chop rate also involve it could be either human factor or mechanical factor because the lifespan of an equipment and also main chop rate because how the usability of the equipment most matters about the company, how well it lasts and how much it generates to the company. And for us to create, also talk about company's layout, the office arrangements, the arrangement of the office, how it's going to be set up, and if each place is conducive, either the environment for the cafeteria, the restroom place, the lighting, all settings need to be in place for an office to be good and conducive for everybody who are going to occupy that environment. Be it the air conditioning, the ventilation, the lighting level, and everything. The FS need to have a checklist of what needs to be in place in an office space.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kenny Edwin. Thank you, everyone, for your contribution to this session, session. This really shows that we are all following and picking the lessons from each class session. So at this point, I would like to hand over the mic now to the facilitator. So get ready, get your notepad ready, your pen, and sit back. I'm ready for yet another educative session this evening. At this point, yes, I would like to hand over the mic to the facilitator, Architect OC Igbiaye. Over to you, sir. Good evening, sir.
Okay, good evening, all. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Oh, great.
Yes,
I'll just share my screen now, and we'll go right into it. So this evening we shall be looking at facility project management, and we'll try as much as possible. It's a very correct course. We'll try as much as possible to manage our time to see how we can run through. The course outline we'll be looking at, we'll look at the introduction, definition, define project, plan projects, manage and oversee project, and project closure, and 6 FM, and we'll look at the conclusion. By way of introduction, what is a project? Is a question that will always come up when we start this class. And it's simply defined as a temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique product, service, or result. Anything that is requires processes to put together something unique is referred to as a project. A project is temporary in that it has a defined beginning and end. It also requires the use of scope and resources, the time and that is put into the project. The other things that defines that project is the scope of the project and the resources that be used for the project. And a project is unique in that it is not a routine operation. A routine operation is like a service operation. Let's say if you are going to be servicing an AC that you're probably doing every three months, and then that operation of servicing your car is actually an operational activity, but the project is a one-off. The purchase and the installation of the AC itself is a project, but the servicing of the AC is a routine operation, a routine operation, and the project is actually unique in itself. And no two projects are the same, no matter how they look alike. They are always unique on its own. And every project is designed to accomplish a singular goal. There's always a goal for every project to be accomplished. And a project team can operate in any way, in any part of the world. They may not definitely be in the same geopolitical region. Now, the characteristics of a project is temporal. This is just a template for you to know that it's temporary. There's no project is a life project. It's not like the song we used to sing, I'm a defined project. No, that's not what we are referring to. This one is a project. Every project has a time gestation period. It's not forever. It has a start, a midpoint, and an end time. A project is unique, like I've said. It has start and end time. It has scope. The scope refers to the work and the quality of what is to be delivered. And we have stakeholders that the project affects, the stakeholders that birth the project and the stakeholders that implements the project, the stakeholder that uses the project when it is completed. You also have resources, people and material resources is required for the whole project to be done. And all the items must be done within a budget, within an agreed budget. So at the end of the day, a project is actually that temporary endeavor that gives you a final result. Planning a project. When you're planning a project, there are some few questions you need to ask yourself. You need to ask yourself, why? Why are you doing the project? Why do you want to do this project? Why at all? Why are you thinking about this project? And after you're able to answer the why question, the next thing is where. Where are you doing the project? Where is this location of the project? Where is it going to be done? And after you'll be able to answer the where question, it goes to the when. When are you going to start? What time is it going to take? The next question you probably have to ask yourself after you have answered the when question is how. How do I want to bring this project to life? How do I want to bring it to life? The next question is what? What is the final product I'm expecting for this project? Immediately you're able to answer that. The next question is the who. Who is the project meant for? Who will receive the project when it is completed? These are some of the questions you must ask during the planning process when you're about to bet the project. One of the things we need to understand is that when you're starting the project, you need to be able to identify the project stakeholders. Stakeholders refer to the project sponsor. The project sponsor is the person that bets the project. Sometimes you may not see the project sponsor throughout the lifetime of the project. You may just see them even once or twice, just at the beginning of the project when the project is being bettered, and at the end when it's being handed over. That's when sometimes you see the project sponsor themselves. It could either be an individual or a group of persons that come together to bet that idea and ensure that it happens. The next one in terms of stakeholders is the receiver of the project deliverables. When the project is being done and is being completed, somebody receives it. Imagine the project is to manufacture 10 packs of bottled water. And by the time, and the purpose is for that bottled water is to be used for a particular occasion. The person that orders the water is the person that will receive the product. That's the receiver of the project project deliverables. Then the next person we'll be looking at is the users of the project outcome. After you have received the bottled water, the people that actually drink the bottled water are the end product, are the users of the project deliverable. Those are also part of the stakeholders. Another stakeholder is the project manager himself and the team. The project manager and the team. You know, the essence of we going through all these projects is because as an FM, as the facility manager, you undergo various projects in different sizes, however small, big, and all projects that you undergo is good to do it under a structured manner. For facility managers, they feel, oh, we're not project. A facility manager should actually be a project manager because from day to day you manage projects in the facility you manage because there are things that must happen. You run the routine operations of the project, and you also manage the small project that arises from the facility that you manage. Like if you want to paint your whole facility, that painting activity is actually a project. You must also be able to put it in a very structured manner and have understanding of how to run it from start to finish so that at the end of the day, you understand what the key objective of the projects are. And when you deliver that goal, it is very evident for all to see and you understand that these are the processes that it takes for every project to be done. Planning a project, you need to establish the project goals and deliverables. You need to establish the project goal and the deliverables. Like we said initially, that every project must have a goal, and you must be able to establish it clearly so that everybody knows what the project goal is, not just being in the heart and the mind of the project manager and the project sponsor. And also, you must be able to schedule the tasks within a project. You must be able to schedule the tasks within the project. While you are looking at that as a project manager, the project manager has some key responsibilities. And one of the responsibilities of the project manager itself is to define clear and attainable project objectives. The project objectives need to be clearly defined so that you will know exactly what you need to do. And once the project objectives are clearly defined, nobody will be in doubt of what is expected of them or the deliverable of the project. So they're able to deliver the project as at when due. And then you, as a project manager who oversees the delivery of that project, ensures that everybody's input comes together with the same focus of the objective that everyone has and has an understanding of, and then delivers the project as it should be able to be, as they should deliver it. And then the project manager must be able to define project by reducing it to a set of manageable tasks. You don't make the project so ambiguous as impossible to be understood. You, as the project manager, you must be skilled enough to break the project into manageable tasks. Also, the project manager must be able to communicate objectives of the project to stakeholders, to all stakeholders. One of the key tools of a project manager is communication. The project manager must be able to communicate and communicate again, and also keep communicating, because communication is key for the success of any project. Must also be able to procure tools, materials that are required for the project. The project manager also must be able to manage the project constraints. The project constraints are the risks that are associated with the project. The project manager must also inform stakeholders of work progress regularly. It is the responsibility of the project manager to update stakeholders of the work progress regularly. The project manager must be able to assess, monitor, and mitigate against the risks that may likely affect the project. Must be able to assess, monitor, and mitigate against every risk that is likely to affect the project. Whatever project you are running must have an associated risk to it. The risk can either be major, medium, or low risk, but whatever risk that it is, you must be able to assess that risk, to grade it appropriately. You must be able to monitor that risk to ensure that that risk does not affect you, affect the project, and you try as much as possible to mitigate against the impact of the risk on the project, however small it is. You must be able to adapt to and manage changes that may arise within the course of the project, and must be able to determine and implement client's need. Any project manager that is unable to implement the client's need is definitely just going to be a failure. The project manager requires some skill. And one of the skills that the project manager may require is conflict management. Also, the project manager will require the people management skill, leadership and result-oriented problem solving and creative thinking, planning and organization skills, time management skills, contract skills, management skills, and negotiating skills. There must be conflict in any project. So the project manager must be able to manage conflicts when they arise in order to ensure that the project goes forward. The conflict may arise within the project manager and his team, or may arise within the external stakeholders that may affect the project. But the project manager must be able to marry and manage the conflict that may come up. The project manager, like we said, must be a good people manager, must be able to manage people to their strengths and weaknesses and be able to define them and know exactly where they fit in and be able to organize them properly. Project manager must be a very good leader and must be result-oriented. Any project manager that does not believe in a project, that project will never succeed. So that's why it's important for the project manager to be result-oriented. At every point in time, the project manager must be positive about the project. The project manager must have the skill of creative thinking and being able to resolve problems, must be able to understand the contract of the document properly to be able to manage it when required, and must be able to look at the time that is allotted for the project, managing the time effectively well, to ensure that there is no time overrun on the project. I must be a very good negotiator because from time to time, you must be able to negotiate with the people in the project, your team, and even external stakeholders that may actually affect the project as it goes. The project manager must be able to be a good negotiator. Those are skills that you need to pick up as project managers. Whether you like it or not, there are things that you will use for every project. You must be able to manage these things properly and get the skill up within your ante. Project management procedures. A case for project initiation. The purpose of the project. This is where you need to define the purpose of the project and the initiation of the different options to be considered to run that project, and evaluation of the alternative method for the project, the benefits of the project, possible disadvantages of the project, appraisal of the cost and investment of the project, and a summary of the potential risks that is associated with the project. It's very important to be able to manage that. Project management processes. These processes are broadly looked at into 5 phases, which is normally called the project life cycle, also called as the 5 process group. They include the initiating phase, the planning, executing, monitoring, and control, and then closing stage. The project is very important that you understand these different phases of the project life cycle. The initiating stage is when the project is being battered, where the thinking of the project, where you answer all the initial questions, like the objective of the project, who is the project for, and all that. That's when all this is being done. The planning phase is when you begin to start the work, where you plan and see how things will work out, how to undergo the project, how to run the project, how to finance the project, how funds will come, how funds will be available throughout the project. All the associated risks of the project is being done, is being seen, all the required detailing to ensure that the project starts and finishes accordingly. It is during the planning stage that all these are normally put in place. Then the execution phase is the actual doing of the work, the actual doing of the work. The executing phase and the monitoring and control, they go hand in hand. As you're executing, you must keep monitoring to be sure that every part of the project complies with the agreement that is in the contract. And then the closing phase is when the project is fully completed and then it is completely closed. The project life cycle is very important to be seen and monitored in every project. So you need to have this at the back of your mind at every time as a project manager. Now, the project execution. Project execution is a phase in the project life cycle when the work is performed and everything in the project plan is put into action. Project scheduling and planning are simple. Planning are simply put and simply done at the beginning. That's when it happens at the planning phase. That's when all the scheduling and the planning happens at the beginning of the project. Most of the time and work of the project are during the execution phase. This is when the actual energy is expended. Yes, you spend more time during the time of planning in order to get as much details as possible, so that when you go into execution, there are no stopping. Therefore, execution in a project management is critically important throughout the project life cycle. Under that execution, that is when all your postulation and all the theories that you have put in place comes into play. This is where you begin to use your communication management, your time management, your cost management, your quality management, your change management, your risk management, your issue management that may arise, your procurement management, and the acceptance management for the project execution, so that as the jobs are being done, everybody has a clear understanding of what needs to be done. Project execution steps. The steps during the project execution will change depending on the specific requirement of the project. Those particular steps are typically laid out in the project execution plan. However, there are general activities that should apply to all projects. The project execution steps, one of the things that you must follow through when you're doing, when you're starting the project, you must create all the tasks that is required to bring the project to life. You must also set the project timeline for each task that will be carried out. While you are doing that, you must also set and assign these tasks to team members or individuals. You must also set the project tracker. You track the progress of the project as it goes ahead. Then you must communicate regularly with both your team members and the client and stakeholders generally that are associated with the project. You must engage with stakeholders from time to time to keep them abreast of the project and how the progress is going on, and schedule changes where it is required, so that you don't just have haphazard changes coming up where somebody will come with wishful thinking and bring to the project and distort the whole project parameters, and then you'll not be in a quagmire. Project execution phase activity include beginning the work itself, managing the workflow for all project tasks, issue management, risk management, manage change orders that may arise due to changes that may come from the client, manage project communication with all stakeholders, verify when milestones are reached, conduct gateway reviews as required in the project, report on project status regularly to the stakeholders. All these activities must happen during the project execution phase. Project triangle, which is popularly called the triple constraint. They are used to analyze the difficulty during project execution, used to also illustrate the project process, and also used to analyze the project goals, used to illustrate the relationship between scope, time, cost, and quality. The triangle that you see here is very important because this is supposed to be indicative of an equilateral triangle. Once a project is agreed and a contract is signed, that equilateral triangle comes into bear, because on that contract and on the stuff that is being arranged, the project in itself, you would have agreed on the scope of work that needs to be done. You will agree on the time, and then you will also agree on the cost. Once you have done that, you all agree to the agreed quality, and then once that is agreed, that project goes into a equilateral triangle. The problem with this is that once any of these indices change, it must affect the other one. If you change the scope, it will affect time, it will affect quality, it will affect cost. If you change the time, it will affect cost, it will affect scope, it will affect quality. If you change the cost, it will affect time, it will affect scope, it will affect quality. So whichever one you do, that's why when you are doing a project and there's about to be a change in whatever indices, as a project manager, you should be careful to go back and look through the project to see how it impacts the project the project triangle, to be sure that you're in good sitting before you take and on those changes that may come up. The project management structure. The role and responsibilities needs to be defined and accepted by all. The project key roles include the project sponsor and the project manager. The project sponsor is the one that bears the project, like we said, and the project managers are those that will now manage the whole process of the project. The project brief must have the project plan, the risk assessment plan, and then the project closure, which is very important. The brief must encapsulate the project plan itself, the risk assessment plan, and the project closure. There are some things that you should not allow happen in the project barriers. As a project managers, you must ensure that these things are managed. A few of them may not be in your control, but as much as possible, you must see how you manage them. Misunderstanding, you must be sure that everybody understands their roles and responsibility. Poor management, that should not happen under your watch. You must be able to manage everything in the project properly. You must be able to communicate. So poor communication should not happen through you. You should be able to communicate clearly to all the stakeholders in the project. Personality conflict. You keep your personality to yourself. Make sure the project is number one. in all that you do. It's not about your personality, it's about delivering the project. Disagreement as much as possible, try and avoid this in the project. Goals and objectives not clearly defined. That will be a disaster. So you must avoid it. Then bad weather. You can't do anything about bad weather, but in your planning, you should be able to plan around it to be sure that that happens. You're able to plan against that risk, because bad weather is an inherent risk in every project. Ensure the following do not occur in the project. Also, be sure that customers' expectation not being met is a no-no. You must ensure that you meet up the customers' expectation. Exceeding the project budget, something that you must watch to be sure that it doesn't happen, to avoid cost overrun. And also exceeding the project timeline as much as possible. Manage the timeline of the project to be within the agreed time as much as possible within your power. Using inconsistent procedure and processes, that should not happen. Procedures and processes that are not known or tried, please do not bring it into your project. Your project is not an experiment. Significant amount of overtime, as much as possible, you must avoid that, because if you have people working overtime too much, they'll become tired and their productivity will drop. Waste of time and resources is one thing you must try as much as possible to avoid in your project, that they do not waste time on resources. Unforeseen external and internal events, as much as possible, do all the planning required so that you do not have yourself into that kind of situation. Module 2, define project. Define project. Define project. Define phase and project input. Formation of the project team is one of the things that must be done when you are defining the project. You must document customers' need clearly. You must develop the project charter and also develop the process map for running the project. Decisions must be taken during the project, and be sure that you have a clear strategy. Name all the required persons that needs to be named in the project. Give the project its name so that everybody understands what the project is. Manage the risks that is associated with the project. Look at all the concept that is required to get the project to life. Look at the business case of the project. Specified all the project, all the specification in the project. You must be sure that everything is agreed, and then look at the steps to achieving the project. You need to keep a watch on your budget and ensure that everything works together with the plan that you have set at the beginning of the project. Defining project objectives. First, the first step in undertaking a project is to define the project goals and objectives. Set the steps required to achieve the objective, or the goals and objective must be clearly defined. And when you are doing that, you must make sure that everything follows and keys. Everybody will key into the project objective. The project objective should describe the project outcome from start to finish. What are you expecting the project to give? It must be clear. You must define it. The project objective must be SMART, meaning that it must be specific, it must be measurable, it must be achievable, it must be realistic, and it must also be time-bound. It must be concise and clear, not very ambiguous. It must be clear to everybody. It must be accepted by the project stakeholders. There's no use running a project objective that is only you that has accepted it. Everybody must accept it. The project, provide a definite description. The objective must provide a definite description of the project itself so that everybody knows exactly what the project is and what is to be delivered in the project. When defining objectives, separate goals from objectives. When defining goals, separate goals from objective, and you must also, the goals are the broad statement of the project. Goals are the what of the project. A project may have more than one goal, but several objectives per goal. Objectives are specific statements supporting the goals. Objectives is the how of the project process. Those are things that you must be sure you do. Consider the following when defining objectives. What strokes the how? What refers to the goal? How refers to the objective? Time frame. Expected outcomes, criteria for achieving the expected outcome and ways to measure the expected outcome. When the project is completed, how do you know that the project has met the required outcome? Define project purpose. One of the things we must do is that we must state the purpose of the project clearly. Link the purpose of the organization goals. Link the purpose of the project to the organizational goals and objectives. Define the purpose. Defining the purpose helps to predict problems where they will come up and also help in proper planning and control of the project activity. When a project begins to go very big, it goes into what we call programming. Performing a programming involves managing of various related projects. Imagine the construction of the Lagos Badagry Expressway, for example, is an example of a project where you are doing the road construction, you are constructing bridges, you're also constructing the railway. The whole three items are single project on its own. Even the section of the bridge is a project on its own. The road construction is a project on its own. The rail construction is a project on its own. So these projects, when they come together, it comes into what we call a program. And at that program level, the same thing that is required for the project to succeed now goes on a higher level, looking at it from the point of governance. Involved selecting projects and adjusting the speed at which they are running. Involve adjusting the project scope, maximizing the value of the entire project portfolio, help to also create outcomes while project delivers the output. You must look at the final outcome of the project at the level of the programming, so that at the end of the day, you know that the project is going to be successful. Define project scope statement. Define the objective and the deliverables of the project. This scope, the project scope, is developed by the project team itself. It contains the description of the scope, the acceptance criteria, the deliverable of the project, the constraints, and all the assumptions. As a project manager, you must be able to define the scope. A badly scoped project will give you serious cost overrun. So it is important that you understand scope of the project, and you must be sure you have a full grasp of that. A project charter is a formal short document that states a project exists and provides project manager with the written authority to begin the project. The project charter document describes a project to create a shared understanding of its goals. It creates a document to describe a shared understanding of what the goals, the objectives, and the resources that is required before the project is scoped out in details. The project charter is an important document to the project manager because that's what gives a definition of the project. A project charter is created in line with the business case for the project as described by the project sponsor, i.e. the person who is responsible for the project existence in the first place. And it is a critical part of the initiation process at the start of the project. Ultimately, the purpose of the project charter is to document the goals, objective, and the business case for the work. Once it's created, the project charter serves as a short contract, as a sort of contract between the project sponsor and the project manager, giving a top-level overview of the existence of the expectation and authorizing the project manager to mobilize resources to achieve the project outcome. The project charter is a very elaborate document that gives the project manager the authority to carry out the project in itself. Planning projects. Plan projects. Plan projects, one of the things we must do is must be able to define the project scope when you're planning the project. And this involves determining a project-specific goal, task, deliverable, deadline, and cost, as well as the resources that is required for the project. It also clarifies the project parameters and limitations. That's where it is clear You now go to the project, setting project duration, estimating the duration of each work activity, integrate all activities into the project schedule. Duration is set on available resources. You cannot just give your project duration abstractly. You must get the resources to give you that timeline, or you get that from work experience. Project, components to be considered in setting duration. One, look at the time delays, look at look at the physical process that is involved in running the project. You also look at the work performed by people, how it impacts the project, the timeline. You also look at work performed by non-human resources. You also look at the types of resources required in the project, the types of resources that are required to run the project. After you have done that, you now go to prepare the work breakdown structure, the organization of the project work into measurable sections, the demarcation, the composition of the work activity into smaller components to make it understandable. It makes a complex project more manageable. Helps in developing the project schedule to budget. It also helps to be sure that everything goes in place. It helps to develop the project schedule and budget, used to identify the potential risks in a project. It's used to identify the potential risks that is associated with the project. The purpose of creating a work breakdown structure, it helps to assign roles and responsibility, because when you break the work into smaller bits, you know exactly what everybody is responsible for. I know the timeline that it will take to be able to do that. It also helps to accurately estimate cost, time, and the risks that is associated with each work task. It also shows the project milestones and control points. It helps with accurate organization of the project. It also helps with the proper explanation of the project scope to the stakeholders, so that you're able to explain the scope properly to the stakeholders in the project, so they have a full understanding. Human resource planning in projects is very important. You must be able to manage your human resources, know when they're required and how to staff them. Involve the identification of and the documentation of the role and responsibility of every project team member, reporting relationship for the project, staff management plan for the project itself. Also define the process of acquiring resources, the period each resources will be required, the requirements for training as is associated with the project. Estimate cost. This serves as a guideline in ensuring that funds available are sufficient to complete the project. Helps to see whether the needed funds are available to support the project. Enables comparison of the anticipated benefits against the anticipated cost that may arise in the project. Also look at identifying the project, if the project is actually viable. Cost estimate for every project is very important. It gives you a foresight of where the project is going, the total cost of the project, if you have the money available. If you don't have it available in one quick sweep, how do you raise the money when the project has started, to be sure that the money is not starved of the required funds, and to be sure that the project actually succeed as it should. That cost that you must know that are going to affect the project. And you have the direct cost and the indirect cost. The direct cost is the cost that impacts the project directly. The team member salary, the cost of material and equipment, supply, transportation costs for moving materials and moving labor from different points to the particular contract or the project site. You must have that. Those are the direct costs, and the indirect costs are the overhead costs and the administrative costs that are associated from the project, which are normally the back end costs, in the project. Those are the indirect costs that are associated with the project. I will therefore manage and oversee project. It's 5:58. I want us to take a short break now. So when we return, we'll continue from where we stop. We'll take a 10 minutes break. This is 5:58. We'll be returning by 6:08. Or rather, 5:59. We'll return by 6:09. I hope this is fine with all of us.
All right, sir. Thank you.
So we'll go on our break now. Thank you very much. Hello, Barakat, it's time. Oh, please help me so I can share my screen. Barakat, are you there?
I'm here, sir. I'm here, sir. Can you hear me, sir?
I can hear you, so I can share my screen. It's time.
Yes.
Okay, can you all see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. We'll just continue. Manage and oversee projects. When you are managing and overseeing a project, you should develop a project management plan. This is a document that outlines the project's execution, control, and monitoring. It defines the execution approach, used to document all the assumptions made for project planning, facilitation of the stakeholders' communication. The project management actually is, the different project management is the application of processes, methods, skills, knowledge, and experience to achieve a specific project objective according to the project acceptance criteria within agreed parameters. Project management has a final deliverable that are constrained to a definite time scale and budget. They are always constrained to the definite time frame and budget. And the project management plan should address the following. One, what is the problem addressed by the project? Every project has a problem that is addressing. What is the project deliverables? Who will be involved in the project? What are the project team responsibilities? What is the project timeline? What time will it take for the project to happen? Like we have always said from the beginning, that the project life cycle is what defines every project. And that is the tool that is required, that is used to monitor the project, the initiation phase, the planning, the execution, the closing. The monitoring and control is subsumed into the planning and the execution phase. That's where that activity majorly happens. Leading the project delivery team. That's the job of the project manager. The project manager should learn how to manage without authority, without enforcing. You are not a military dictator as a project manager. So you must learn to manage the project, manage the people, and encourage them and motivate them. Must have an understanding of how to motivate people to work so that they stay motivated throughout the life cycle of the project. Plan and oversee projects. You need to be able to look at the essential ingredient for the projects for a successful delivery of a project. You need to be able to put that together. One of the ingredients, the essential ingredients, is that ensure that the project team stays motivated. If the project team is not motivated, then you are going to have crisis in your hand. Increase the knowledge of each project team member. You must learn to train them and make sure that they grow even while performing the project, because they become better persons and they'll deliver the project more. Increase the knowledge of each project member, increase each team member ability to make decisions by trusting them. Trust, and will also increase trust amongst the project team so that they believe in themselves and they can work together as a team. Another thing we must look at when you are trying to manage and oversee a project is risk management. Like I said, every project has its associated risks. And you must be able to manage these risks as a project manager. Common risks in a project are unexpected reduction in the project budget. Well, of course, something like what is happening in Nigeria, a lot of projects that started at the beginning of the year, even at the close of the year when dollar was just climbing up, it was just going from between 500 and then it just got up to almost 1,500 at the time, and then that came down to 1,000 and now has spec as 1,700. With that kind of situation, it has affected a lot of projects and project deliverables because the budget they look on how to manage their financing and because the projections will all go haywire. You need to be able to look at the roles and responsibilities which are not clearly defined. You must be sure that you define all your roles and responsibilities because these are common risks that affects projects when the roles and responsibilities are not defined to both the team members and the stakeholders. Stakeholders input not obtained when you do things on your own without obtaining the required approval from the stakeholder and submission and buy-in for decisions that to be taken in the project. Slow customer feedback and review when you do not receive, when you do not attend to the customer's review and their feedback in a timely manner, it ends up affecting the project. Stakeholder making adjustment to project requirements. Poor communication, like we have mentioned, very optimistic cost and timeline. When you have very optimistic cost and timeline, it's very dangerous because at the end of the day, you know that it's not realistic. So that poses a big problem. It's a risk to the project. Stakeholders need not fully understood. That's dangerous. You must make sure that stakeholders understand everything that is happening in the project. Stakeholders adding new requirements in the project. When stakeholders just keep adding things into the project is something that we must watch for any project to succeed. Steps to managing project risks. 1, risk management should be part of the project plan. 2, early identification of risks in the project is very important. Risks should be communicated to all parties involved. Put precautionary measure in place to avoid such risks. Consider and review identified risk threats and opportunities. It's something that you must keep doing on the project. Assign the risks to owners. Assign risk owners. Assign people to risks so that they're able to manage the risks in a very concise manner. Prioritize risks by doing a risk metrics. Risks should be closely analyzed at every point in time to be sure that it's been watched, plan, and implement the response to risks. Create a risks register at all times so that you're able to know the risks that is associated with the project. Plan versus process monitoring. This involves monitoring and tracking the progress of the project schedule, helps in identifying variance from the project baseline. Baseline is when the project you have a timeline for the project, and that timeline has been logged in. And when the project comes into life, you now begin to track the variance to see if you are still in line or you are ahead of the project plan or you are behind the schedule so that you are able to monitor the project and know how you can be able to catch up. Helps in keeping the project within scope, budget, and time. Proper monitoring also helps in identifying when there is a significant deviation from the project timeline, so you know when to activate some quick actions to crash the program in order to be able to meet up with the project timeline. And will provide early indications of problems with the project activity coordination, also cost overrun and resource conflicts. Steps to monitoring project plan versus progress. 1, create a baseline. It's very important to create baseline and always communicate. Communication in project management is very key. Communication in project management is very, very key. So we must learn to communicate and communicate very well. Project budget management. A project budget provides an understanding of how funds should be utilized and expended for a project. A work breakdown structure is the basis for project budgeting. Now, the work breakdown structure is subsumed into scoping. Schedule, if you look at this diagram that is here, you have schedule, project budget, scope, and cost. The schedule of the project helps you to build the project budget. And then from there, the input, all that comes together when you have the project budget, the schedule helps you to get that, the scope helps you to get that, the cost that is associated with it helps you to, those input comes into the project budget. And at the end of the day, you're able to manage that. The block breakdown structure helps you to understand the project. Imagine you want to build, let's say, a 3-bedroom bungalow. And to actually get the cost of building that 3-bedroom bungalow, you need to, first of all, understand and know all the materials that is required, which will be given to you by the QS. And then you also need to know the different components of work that is associated with building that 3-bedroom bungalow. You know that you do some excavation work and to do the foundation work of the 3-bedroom bungalow. You know you require laborers that will do the digging, and then you require machines to either do digging or labor to do that. You require block wall. You require a mason, the action of masons to set the blocks. You require the electrical works to be done. You need an electrician. You need a plumber, a mechanical guy for all the plumbing pipes. And then the air conditioning connection, you need to do that. You need the mason for the plastering. You need the woodworks for the framework, for the formwork, for all the lintels and all the formwork for the foundation works. And also you need carpenters for the roof work. You also need carpenters for the roof frames and also for the roof covering itself. And then you now need all the painters that will be required to paint. And, you know, by the time you take all these block items I've just mentioned, you now see that you're able to build up a work breakdown structure, because now you identify all the different work that is required to be done. You now get the tradesmen that are involved in this work activities. You now break it down into what needs to be done, including the finishes in the building. Look at the tiling, look at the POP ceiling, the POP walls that you need to do. So you gather all these people together and all the work sections, and that in itself, by the time you break it down into this level, you now know the cost of each of these items. You know what it will cost for the bricklayer to work, you know what it cost for the tiler to work, you know what it cost for the plumber to work, you know what it cost for the electrician to work, you know what it cost for the painter to work, you know what it cost for the carpenter to work. You now begin to itemize all these costs. After you have done that, you now ask them, if you are not experienced enough, you ask them how long it will take them to complete each aspect of their work. You ask them and they will give you a projected time. That timeline you need to wait to be sure that they are not overestimating time or underestimating time. It is with those things that you are not able to make adequate planning and adequate budget for the project to make the project very successful. A project budget can be properly maintained through continuous budget forecast. Continuous budget forecast is at every stage of the work, you know what you need to do in the next stage. So you're able to forecast and say, oh, we are at the foundation level now. The next step is for us to go into building the block wall to the lintel level. We will need funds to pay the mason that will work there, and they require this amount of funds, they require this amount of blocks, they require this amount of sand, they require this amount of cement for them to work. They require this amount of water so you can make adequate provision for them and now have the project. When you do that calculation, you now know how much you require in terms of project forecast. Regular forecast of resources that is going to be used for the project. Also proper scope management. You now understand the scope better and you're able to project, do the major projections that you need to do during the project. Keeping the project team informed, because by informing the project team of what needs to be done, it makes them prepared for the next level and next stage of work that is to be done, project closing. Now, project closing the project is also critical to all the activities that happens in the project. And it is at also this point that the client is either satisfied or is not satisfied. So for project closing, you must sign off that you can ensure that the client signs off of the work completion certificate. How you complete every project, there must be a work completion certificate that will be signed off by the client. After the project outcome has been measured against the criteria of acceptance, a work completion certificate is issued and signed. The work completion certificate records the information such as any other comment about the project, the success criteria of the project, the key metrics to track the project, or the key metrics that was used to track the project, and a high level lesson learned from the project, so that all these things are actually things that goes into the project deliverable. When you are sure the project is completed, the work completion certificate will be issued to you that you have done a good job, and then that certificate is what gives you authorization to get paid your final balance for every project. The project analysis must also be done, and this the process of determining the real situation of the project. How did the project fare? Did it come out successful? Were there failures or there were successes recorded? Were the processes that were used to run the project, were they in good light for the project to be successful? And also helps to find out whether the project is operated properly or otherwise. That's when you are doing the project analysis. You analyze all the different aspects of the project to be sure that everything goes in line. And after the completion of the project, confirm whether the project has become successful to achieve its objective, identify and resolve any issues that may arise during the project operation. This is normally covered during what we call the defect liability period, which I'm sure you guys will be taught. Defect liability period is that period within the project where all the defects that may arise from the project, is just like having a warranty on your product that you buy. That as you're using this product for the first 6 months, anything that goes wrong that is not that's due to factory error, it will be fixed for free, or in some cases, the item that you bought may be changed. That's the same thing. The defect liability period that allows the user of the project to use the project, and wherever areas that they have issues, it will be attended to when it is not a major issue due to carelessness, but just a failure of 1 or 2 items that has been installed. Evaluate the project success or failure. Also check to determine if the expected objectives were successfully achieved when the project is completed. The following are reviewed at the project analysis stage. 1, you look at achieving the project objective, if it was properly achieved, the proper utilization of the resources, the project resources, if they were utilized and utilized well, the saving on the resources, were there any savings? Look at the usefulness of the decision taken during the project, and then look at the service delivery that was given finally. Are you okay with it? Is it according to what is expected? Then project commissioning and handover. These are also an important aspect of the project closing. This involves checking, inspecting, and testing to be sure that everything that was promised has been delivered and they are working functionally, that every installation is functioning well and functioning in the optimal level. This applies to all project phases, applicable to all project phases, the different phases that you have broken the project to. You can do your testing and commission on each phase to be sure that the equipment or the installation is working well. The objective of project commissioning is to ensure a safe and orderly handover of the project and guarantees that the project operability in terms of safety, performance, and reliability. Safety, performance, and reliability. Closing the project, normally you are supposed to have a project filing system. That project filing system helps you to document all the correspondence and all the issues that may arise during the project. At the start of the project, you are expected to create a filing structure for the project as the project kicks off. The types of filing system depends on the size of the project. A simple file may be used for a very small project, while a file numbering system may be required for a larger project. It is advisable that the files are kept both manually and electronically, so that at any point in time, you'll be able to refer to the documents of the file from time to time. The following files should be kept for a project. One, look at the contract file. These are just advised of files that should be kept. The contract file, you should have file that houses all the contracts that is associated with the project. Correspondence, the letters that goes from project manager to client, client to project manager, and also within from the project manager to the contractor or the vendor that is executing the work, whatever it is. Then also look at the administrative file. You need to do administration of the project itself. You need to manage a technical file that has all the technical inputs for the project. Is probably filed. And then the quality management file, all the items that helps to manage the quality delivery on the project. You need to have a file for them, all the documents that are signed off, all the documents that is required are all collated under the quality management file. The construction support file are all the details that support the construction. Those files are supposed to be kept for ease of reference. Then also you are supposed to keep document the lessons learned. We call it lessons learned register. Lessons learned are experiences gained from executing the project. Lessons learned should be identified and documented at the close of the project. At the close of the project. Every project comes with its own lessons that you must learn. And this learning of these lessons, you must write it down. Write it down so that in subsequent projects that may come up, you will be able to address the issue when it is written down. You know how you're able to maneuver through the issues that came up, and it will also help you in your future project. That should be the last slide. Thank you very much. So I'll take our questions now, and then we'll take our questions as much as possible. So if you have any questions, you can just signify by raising your hand, and then I'll call you for you to ask your question. I can see Abiodun's hand up now. Please, you can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Okay, good evening, sir. Thanks
Yeah,
for
good
the
evening.
job well done. Really, you really touched on the aspect. Please, I want to ask, in a situation whereby a proposal has been submitted for a project, like let me say I submit the proposal like December last year, and they are calling back like after like 2 months. Now inflation and some other things will not make that to really work out again. Or let me say I even commence the project and along the line I discover that this has really gone up. I could not meet up. How do I go about that? Do I need to like start to write a letter or I don't I just want to put me through on that kind of aspect. Thank you, sir.
Okay, you have mentioned two scenarios when a project is about to start, and then the inflation has affected the agreed cost.
Yes,
One
sir.
of the things that you must learn to do is you must learn to communicate. Communication is very key in a project. One of the things, and you must be open enough for your client to see and understand. And because at times like this, if you are not open, it becomes difficult for you to be able to communicate. So you must be open to your client and bring all the indices that you'd have used to do your pricing model. Because now you are not at the mode of just making heavy profits. It's just to survive, to make sure the project succeeds, and you also make a healthy profit out of it, not the very big profit. So you need to come out open. If it will cost you to bring your vendors list or your price list from the market so that they see it, or make some verifications so they understand the movement that has happened, and then factor your own profit or your markup so that they know what your markup is, and they know that okay, this is, so they'll probably just negotiate with your markup. They cannot negotiate the cost of materials or the cost of labor. So you must be open to them. You must communicate, write them from time to time. It's not the time to fight. And when it becomes an issue, there's always a clause in the contract which is called force majeure, when there's an act of God, where both parties do not have control of what is going on. And in such a case, that's when that is called. However, there's also a clause in contract. I don't know the kind of contract you're managing, where if they give you at least 60 to 70% of the contract cost upfront, you are supposed to procure some key materials. Once you have done that, those bulk purchase helps to block the prices. And you must show evidence that you have utilized these monies properly by bringing these items to your client or let them see where you are storing it. It's then and then that you can make some of these claims. And also your second question is if the project has started and then prices of things change. Same, you go through the same route, inform your clients, discuss with them, let them see reasons, and bring whatever thing that the costings to them to see, and call the market and bring all market prices for all to see, for them to know and are able to take adequate decisions. But at that point, you must be open enough to your clients for them to know exactly what your challenges are and how to manage that. I hope I've been able to answer your question.
Thank you very much, sir. Thanks, sir.
Yeah. Okay. I see Modupe. Let's take your hand before we go to Clement. Madam Modupe, can you unmute yourself and talk so I can hear you? I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Okay, while Madam Modupe is trying to sort herself out, let's hear from Clement Ofo.
Wow.
Okay. Good evening, sir. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Clement.
Yeah, good evening.
Is on the line. Okay. In the slide where you can see when they find an objective, there's something a particular word I don't understand. I want you to clarify us. But a project may have more than one goal, but several objectives per goal. Please, can you help us to explain better, please?
Okay. Let me do it this way. If the goal of the project is to provide accommodation. Hello?
I'm with you, sir.
If the goal of the project is to provide accommodation, that is the goal. The objective may be the kind, which will be something that like this, the kind of accommodation that you are providing. Is it luxurious accommodation, or is it low income, or is it mid income? That's where the specifics begin to come, because it is then that you begin to track what you are delivering. If it's high income, you state it there. It's going to be a 5-bedroom luxury apartment that's to serve high income earners between the band of that is earning at least let's say 10 million naira per month. They'll be able to afford this, and the final cost of this project, of this 5-bedroom, will be stated will be around 250 million naira for off-takers and all that. The objective is to provide accommodation. Sorry, the goal is to provide accommodation. The objective now is to give you a definition of what kind of accommodation you are providing. I hope that's clear enough for you.
Okay, better, sir.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay, Modupe, let's hear you.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, good evening, sir. Thank you for your call, sir, and how you elaborated. Okay, so I have a case scenario, right? My first question is, can you be in a situation where you don't know that you're the project manager? Because what happened, we had a rehabilitation work to do, and then we contracted the work to a particular vendor. We had program of work, we established the program of work, the scope, and what it would entail. So we awarded the contract, right? After awarding the contract, the vendor came back after like a month to tell us that, oh, there will be a variation on the contract, the amount. So they sent us what the variation would be, and we decided to cut down on the scope of work to be done. Now, the job got completed after back and forth and everything. There were so many snags and all that. We signed, after they cleared the snag, we signed the job completion. And then we now realized that the variation was totally different from what the original project was, right? So they had already, from their own end, the vendors end, they had scrapped the initial scope, and then we initiated a totally new one. So we are at loggerheads on, the balance to be paid and what not to be paid. So I don't know, maybe going forward, sir, how would you maybe advise someone like me in that point, because I'm on the client side, things were not properly communicated from the vendors, and they also had their own project manager. that was managing the whole rehabilitation process. So I don't know how we're going to go about
Okay.
it.
You actually have been in an unfortunate situation, and I pray you don't get into that situation, that kind of situation again. After this class, one of the things you must learn to do as a project manager, the first question you ask, is it possible to be a project manager without knowing? No, it's not possible. You must know, because that the responsibility that you are taking on. If you live in the denial, you always have issues. And once you know that you are the one in charge to manage a project, you must be ready to take it head on. And for this kind of situation that happened, probably the vendor just outsmarted you guys, because he noticed that the project lead or the project manager was not experienced enough to be able to manage the project contract. Because normally when there's a variation coming up, you must refer to the initial contract that was signed before you add a variation. If it's not a new scope, whether it is a new scope or not, there's an existing contract, and that mother contract governs whatever variation that will come in. So you have a start point where you are varying from. That's why it's called a variation. It's not a new contract. So probably what the vendor just did was he played a smart one, took away the old contract and put in a new one, and now you are now in a situation where you have already given permission to go on with the works, and now you have to pay. Unfortunately, you have to pay the vendor because that's the situation. Because there's no evidence to show that you did not give approval. If you did not give approval, then the vendor will not be paid. If you had given approval to go ahead, then the vendor has to be paid. But in case of next time, be sure to always refer to your border contract. Like I was talking during the time I talked about the project triangle, that you must be careful when anything is coming up. Don't take things in a rush. Don't be emotional about whatever request that is being made. Go back, go to your project documentation, go through everything line for line, ask questions where you don't have understanding, and let you get full clarification. Don't be rushed into taking any decision. Get full clarification. Make sure you have a full understanding of what is done. Document it and write to both parties clearly in clear languages where everybody understands. If the vendors have known that you do something like that to them, they will probably know that they cannot play this kind of tricks. So you must learn to communicate from time, no matter how small, even if it's a one line, whether it is by WhatsApp or by email or by writing physical letters, just ensure that you communicate clearly to the project team and the project stakeholders, either whether they are the vendors or whether it is the client, so that at the end of the day, there's no ambiguity when the project closes. Thank you very much. I hope I've answered your question, Motiba.
Okay, thank you, sir. So, I mean, this is like we can't resolve the issue. We just have to bear the consequences and then what.
Yes, you have to bear. That's the truth. The mistake has been made. You probably just look for. That's why negotiation skill is required. But you need to negotiate from a place of strength. So you need to do some homework. Maybe after this class, I'll probably give you a concession. We'll talk. Maybe you get my contact from the secretariat. You call me or send me a message. We'll communicate. I'll take you step by step when I understand the model on how to manage the vendor and give you an amicable resolution that can come. But it's just that there must be compromises on both ends.
Yeah.
Just be ready for that.
All right. Thank you very
All
much.
right. The next, you're welcome. Oluwashola. You can unmute yourself and ask your question. Adeyinka, please.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, sir. Then good evening to everyone on the call. Yeah, so just want to have some questions. So the first one, upon completion of a project, so what's the ideal retention period to be given? And also,
hold on. Let me answer that one first, so that I know you want to ask several questions. Let me say I don't forget.
Okay.
One, the due retention period is between the period of 6 months to 12 months, depending on what is agreed on the contract, but it cannot exceed 12 months. Ideally, 6 months, but some contracts have it as 12 months, depending on how elaborate the contract is. So it's between 6 months to 12 months, but does not exceed 12 months. I hope that answers our question. So the next one.
Yeah, thank you. Then in aspect of starting a project, because I know definitely there is portion of variation. So what's the proportion percentage that one can use for variation?
Okay, ideally, when a project is kicking off, this is an ideal setting. If you have done your scoping properly, your variation should be plus or minus 5%, maximum plus or minus 15% of the total contract sum. Anything exceeding that, it shows that the scope has been poorly done, and then the project will be going into heavy cost overrun.
Okay. Okay. Oh, thank you, sir.
So it means that the scoping of the project is very important. If you're able to scope very well, you'll be able to get the actual cost as close as possible to what it will cost to run the project, plus or minus 5%. That's when you have scoped very well. But allowance is given for, let's assume that, okay, some things, changes happen, some things come in, so you have a plus or minus 15%. Anything apart from that, that means you have done a bad job as a project manager. So you must always watch that window.
Okay, all right. Thank you, sir.
Yep. Oh, thank God. I hope I answered your question. You can put any other question.
Yes, sir, I have a question, please.
Who is that person? I'm not seeing your hand. I'm just hearing your
I
voice.
don't know why my hand, I've been trying to raise it up, but it's not working.
Okay,
I said,
is that Toby?
yes.
Okay, go ahead. Yes.
Yes, sir. Okay, so I have two questions actually. So
Go
you
ahead.
talked about project management, and I know that a number of softwares that also help with making sure that the project runs smoothly and it identifies all the stakeholders involved as well. So I wanted to ask, what software would you advise in the case where you want to run a project and for it to be smooth and seamless? What software would you advise us to make use of if that's the case? Then the second question is, I know that obviously for you to gain the advantage as well, there's some still back into the software as well. For you to gain that advantage, which software would you still recommend in that aspect as well? Because I know that a number of when you're looking for jobs as well in project management, they tell you should be proficient in this or proficient in that. So it's just the skills and the skills and know-how that I'm trying to understand in the project management field of what to use and how to go about doing it as well. So yeah,
Okay.
so.
Basically, what the question you just asked is just one. The software that you require to just run a project successfully. Okay. First of all, I'll state it clearly. Whatever software you want to use, the software does not do the job. It is the individual that does the job.
Yes, sir.
So what you actually need is your personal skill first of understanding how to run a project. Before the software just aids you in the monitoring of the projects. That's what the software does. And you have the Primavera that is used by Prince 2, and then you have the Gantt chart.
Okay.
Program of works, that is MS projects. That's the software that does that. But the two softwares actually they are just tools that helps you to monitor the project. It just gives you're able to see your project timelines. You're able to put a tracker on the software but you need to have the discipline of going back to the software. Some people do it with Excel. Excel, they do a project chart on a project Gantt chart on Excel, program of work in Excel, and also set the trackers on Excel. Whatever one you choose to do, you just learn the software. It's just like learn how to use your typewriter or your keyboard or the Microsoft Word to just type letters and all that. That doesn't stop. You know how to type, but if you don't have anything in your head, what do you type? Nothing. I don't know if you understand. So you need to develop the experience. And not funny enough, project management is not what is taught in. Is not exactly. Yes, you teach it in school, you teach it in class, but it's an experiential thing. Is what you must run a physical project for you to go through the whole process to see and identify all the risks. You see it, and you must begin to see things in a different perspective as a project manager. And yes, Toby has disappeared. My
I'm
God.
still here.
All right.
I'm still here.
Oh, sorry. I thought you have disappeared though, so that other people will benefit from your question, but you will not get it. Okay. So it's something that I normally will give this example in a live class that a very simple project that I can let you know that you never know is a project is to make eba. You know eba?
Yes.
Water and gari. Right? You just boil water and pour gari inside and turn it. You may laugh. You are laughing at why is this in a project? If I ask you to do eba for 10,000 persons, can you imagine what it will take to do it? Then you now know that as simple as making just a bowl of eba is actually a project. So if you understand how to do eba, you know, okay, I know how to do eba, just to boil water and pour water and turn it. Yes, that same understanding is what will help you to do for 10,000 persons. Now, that understanding will let you know that, if I'm going to do for 10,000 persons, I need to now consider all the things I normally do not take, or I take for granted when I'm doing for myself. The heating of the water is a very serious project. To get the gari itself that will feed that 10,000 is a serious project. So ensure that that water that you're going to use is proper water, not contaminated water, is the project in itself. The aspect of even turning the gari also is also another project. So be sure that all the eba that you're producing for that 20,000 people are consistent and the same quality is another project. You can see where it is going to. It becomes bigger. Now, if I tell you to change this and put it into project management, you'll be confused. Especially if you don't know what the process of making eba. Now, so keeping it on the other side, that means you must develop yourself to become a creative. That's why we said, as a project manager, one of the skills is you must be a creative thinker. You learn the software, learn how to program everything, understand what it means to do the breakdown structure, which is to understand the different element that is associated to that project that you want to deliver. Immediately you do that, you're able to break it down. You break down all, because these are the inputs that goes into the software, because it is you that will still put it there. When you have put it there, you now begin to track everything from start to finish. You know, okay, now we are going to start the boiling of water, and we're going to boil water for the next 3 hours. After the water is boiling, what is the next that must get set? If the next thing to get set is to get the gari and the turners on ground, how do you do that? That means while you are boiling the water, you must be making the gari relevant. You must be preparing it. If you are going to start from producing from the farm, of getting the cassava, of getting the farmers to start producing the cassava, to go to the processing, because you're not just doing for one person, you are doing for a lot of people. So you need to consider the supply chain. So you must broaden your horizon to the point where you understand, these are the different elements that needs to be done. When you know this element, you put it into the program. Whether you do the program of order on MS Project or Primavera or use Prince 2 to put it down. It will now be showing you. By the time you put it in there, it will show you your critical part. Now, there's what we call the critical part. The critical part is the line of the project that it will normally be generated from the program of works, from the work breakdown structure. That no matter what happens, you cannot do any changes on this critical part. If you touch anything on the critical part, it will elongate the project, the program timeline. Imagine if I'm going to build a 3-bedroom, let's say a 2-story building. A 2-story building, one of the critical parts for structural engineers is that each of the concrete walls that is associated with that building has a minimum of 28 days to cure. So by the time you isolate, you start from the floor slab, 28 days to cure. You can beat some of these dates, but those are just standards. The upper floor. So at the end of the day, no matter what you do, you know that when you want to build a story building, the fastest time you can do it within the acceptable period is around the period of like 3 months. If you are going to be fast, because the concrete must cure. If not, the building will collapse if you
Yes.
load it. So that's those are the things that you watch. You break everything. By the time you do your breakdown structure, you will see the critical parts clearly. And that critical part is what you use for the project baseline to monitor the project up and down. That's where you now begin to track. Because this is not the physical class, it would have been easy for me to do a diagram and show you these things. However, I hope you understand what I'm saying
Yes,
generally.
sir. Yes. So basically,
So
you're saying
at the end
that
of
if you have the experience, handy, or basically you have
the
the
hands-on,
hands-on experience, it makes it easier for you to just do the software because you already know how the processes will go. So the
correct.
software, yeah. Thank you so much, sir.
Correct. That's it. So you just the learning the software is an advantage. But a lot of people say you must be proficient in this proficient. Yes, of course you are proficient. It's just to just say, oh, for you to be proficient in this software, it means that you already know how the software works. I know the input that comes into the software. That's just a way for them to gauge that you already have the requisite experience to use that software and then to now monitor and track the project, because it is that software that helps you to be doing your reporting. You know how far you are from the delivery point. You know if you are gaining time. If you know if you're not gaining time, you now begin to see the activities that is dragging behind, because the software will just show it to be showing in red when you put on the tracker. So I also advise that you learn the software, but while you're at it, you must also be sure to get hands-on experience. If you have a facility you are managing, it makes it a lot better for you to just learn. Just be involved in it. Look at the process. Ask questions from the vendors. Ask questions from the technicians, how they do the things they do, how long it takes, so that by the time you have all these inputs, it will make you a better project manager. I hope I've answered your question, Toby.
Yes, you have. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Any other question?
Yes,
You have
sir.
just 3 minutes.
I have a
Who is saying
question,
yes?
sir.
I can't hear you. Okay.
I have
Who
a
is that?
question,
Philomena?
sir. Okay, yes.
Okay, go ahead. Yes, go
My
ahead. You're the
question
last one.
is, okay, in relation to risk assessment,
Yes.
consideration to circumstances that may not be considered or factored in to time, so that when a project is not completed in due time, for example, now there can be maybe natural disaster, there can be a strike action. I remember a project that was being done, and then the strike action that occurred a few months back, and all the workers had to put down their tools, lay down their tools for days. How the effect on that on a project that has time lag? That's what the question I'm trying to ask.
Okay. Let me try and put this in perspective. You are trying to see
Yes.
what provisions a project will have when you have impact due to risks that are not seen and unforeseen. Let me give you a
Yes,
very live example.
unforeseen. Yes.
Yes. Okay. During the time COVID happened in 2019, 2020, the impact was actually in 2020. This is a live example. I was involved in a project that started 2019 and was supposed to be completed in 2021. And the impact of COVID came around March, and the shutdown happened between April and May, and then the staggered work stretched for about another 3 to 5 months. And when that happened, one of the things that you must learn to do as a project manager, you must learn to keep records, keep dates. For construction, that's one thing that will never fail you. Data is always the best way to answer questions and to gain mileage in any project you are doing. If you have data, nobody can deny data. You must be you must listen to news. You must have newspapers. If you have anything that you know is going to impact your project, you must not be lazy and sit down and some people sit down and just think that things just happen. When there is flooding that is affecting your project, get the date where the flooding started and when it's going to recede. The strike started so and so day, this is where it ended. This is where we go. And before the thing will start to affect your final delivery date, really the thing is called back. You send a memo to the clients or to the stakeholders the impact of this strike action on the project so that everybody sees and is clear. So at the end of the day, it is them that will be telling you that, oh, we know the timeline has changed. what is the new timeline? Just help us so that we can still meet up with something close, not too far from what we agreed initially. At that time, you're in a better position to be able to answer the project and be sure that the project is going to. But one of the things you must learn to do is that you must keep data and you must communicate as quick as possible so that the stakeholders know exactly what is going. They know, but if you don't communicate with them, they won't work with the assumption. They only work with the data you have provided to them. So you must be able to capture this in a very, very, very comprehensive manner and make your presentation to them from time to time. That's why communication is very key. Immediately you have done that, and you must also be sure that and give clear ways where you are going to be able to catch up time and your new projections for when the project is going to end. Not that you just do a lazy man approach and say, the strike worked for like, we had strike for like 1 week. We just add 1 week to the project. It doesn't work that way. That impact of 1 week can actually prolong the project for another 1 month if you're not careful. So you must be able to analyze it properly and be able to defend it when you're making your presentation. I hope I'll be able to answer your question.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. This is 7 o'clock. This is time for the class to end. I want to say thank you very much for your time. We'll be having another time again on Monday, same time. I hope that we have learned 1 or 2 things this evening. Thank you very much, and do have a good evening. God bless you.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. All right. Good evening. Good night, all. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.